I think we have a quorum, so I will call the meeting to order. And we will begin with public comments. If there is anyone present by Zoom, we see no one in the room who would like to participate by speaking to any item that's not on the agenda. Hearing none, seeing none, we don't need to worry about that. Before we talk about the old business approval of the minutes, I'm going to suggest that we all agree on a little change in the agenda. We always have an action item for committee member comments and announcements. We allot 10 minutes. And because I know that Bob has something that will take a few minutes to discuss, if I can ask the staff members to kind of squeeze a minute or two out of other things, and we can plan on spending 20 minutes on the committee member comments and announcements. Would that be agreeable to everybody? Because I think I know what's coming. Okay.
Sure. I was trying to talk to Bob offline before, but we didn't get to connect. So.
Okay. So let's plan when it says 10 minutes. Let's plan on 20 minutes for that part of the agenda. That brings us to the approval of the minutes from the February 3rd meeting. Does anyone have any comments or corrections for the February 3rd minutes?
I have just one. I'm trying to get Wi-Fi so I can see the stuff. And is it PA free or PA guest or
PA guest, I think.
Yeah, I'm on PA over air free, and that doesn't work. Sorry about that. I just want to look at the minutes tonight.
I can post them too. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get the right one up. Let's see if we can look at it together. Okay. And then let me zoom in because can I not see this? The side. So it's up here, Bob. And how it just wanted to let, so Jamie Perez, who is my staff person who is taking over, she unfortunately left the city. She went to the city of San Mateo.
I did see that, yes.
So, and the clerk informed me that there other committees just do action minutes. So then it's a lot less work for us. And then we load the meeting because we record them anyway.
Right.
So we'll do it that way, as long as you guys are all okay with that. Thank you, Michelle. So are you okay with doing just action minutes? So this will be the last time we'll see detailed minutes, and they'll just be action minutes, and then we'll record
does
the
the committee still
presentation.
approve action minutes?
Yes. Oh, I don't know. Danny, does the committee approve action minutes?
Yes, I'm sure we
Yeah.
still have to approve
Okay.
the minutes.
So-
There is such a thing as, I mean, there's no, to my knowledge, there's no government code provision or Robert's Rules provision on something called action minutes. It's just, if you're used to looking at minutes that try to quote everybody, some secretaries do it that way. Corporate secretaries at board meetings never do it that way. So the streamlined version that is done by most people, most places, just indicates motions that have been adopted or reports that have been received. The exception to that is that sometimes someone will say, the minutes should note that we discussed, or the minute should
Yeah,
note that
sure.
someone observed that. And that can be important, for example, if there's a potential conflict of interest or something of that
We
sort.
can do that.
So let's record for this part of the meeting. Let's record that we approve the idea that going forward, our minutes will not include everybody's comments, will include only actions and things that specifically are called out as needing to be in the minute.
Perfect. Thank you, Danny.
She says.
With
No, me.
that change, Can we approve the February 3rd minutes? Are there any objections?
None.
Hearing none. That brings us to the adoption of a resolution authorizing use of teleconferencing. I thought this was already authorized.
We have to
but
do it every
we have to
meeting.
do it every meeting. Oh, okay, every meeting.
Yes.
Every month.
Yeah, I
Every
thought it
meeting,
said that
every-
we only approve it for 30 days.
I know, which is ironic because then our next meeting's not for 60 days,
Right.
but we're the one committee that doesn't meet monthly. So we're just approve it, and then the next time we meet, we'll just approve it again.
Is there a meeting motion to so approve?
So moved.
So
Can
moved.
can
A second.
can I ask a question?
Sarah?
Is it going to be in the same location when we meet in person? Are we going to stay at City Hall?
So I think because we're doing this hybrid remote with the OWL camera, we're the first committee to hold it actually in this community meeting room. We'll probably continue to meet here, which I know is not ideal, but it allows us to get assistance from IT and the clerk faster than if we were at the art center. So
To
Blame
me,
it on
this
the
is
owl,
ideal.
huh?
To me, this is ideal.
This
It's
is
great for
ideal.
me.
This is plenty,
So
more than adequately
So
ideal
we
for me.
moved out of, we at least got us out of the council chambers and into here because we're not such a big committee.
Parking's a little issue, you know, kind of an issue because it's staff parking pretty much, but other than that.
I think we have a motion and a second, if the secretary has track of that. All in favor of adoption of this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Ron was no.
On a voice vote, I'm sorry.
I think Ron, did you say no?
You
Ron?
just- No, I didn't say no.
Oh, okay, I thought I heard you say.
I think it's all votes were in favor. That brings us to the staff presentation of the fiscal year 23 proposed budget for committee approval.
So in your packet on page 14, which is also up on the screen, I did not print packets. And so if that's something we want to have in the future, Hal, let me know. And how many, I'll email out beforehand and ask how many packets, because we're trying to reduce our zero waste. So, but this is one of the letters that we need to submit to the finance committee and council regarding that once we finalize and review the budget, letting us know. So I just want to let you know, we'll circle back to this after I go through the presentation. This is a letter we do every year, just that you guys, your whole primary mission is to review our budget and make sure we're spending our money.
We changed, we added stuff or something. I
Correct.
kind of remember talking about this. so.
Correct. And Danny, I should have given you this portion to also edit and modify. Apologize for that. Okay, but we can always go back. All right, so that's the letter. And then Jamie Perez, very nicely before she left, she pulled together the slides for me. Can you guys all see that? That's too small. I want to get the right screen.
Oh, this is a nice.
Yeah, can you guys see that? Let me see if I can hide it. Okay. I'm used to doing it off of two screens, so this is, keep in mind that I'm trying to look on a smaller screen.
We're all
We're all transitioning, which is good. So this is usually, we circle back and we look at our overall budget. So as you can see, we've had our adopted budget and we're on our 5th year in our proposed budget for next year. So that's in 23, which is the fiscal year that we're currently working with our budget folks. And we're going to, in May, we go to our council to discuss the budget. So we have our fee revenue. As you can see, it's going up, and that's partly because the stormwater fee goes up a certain percentage each year. This year it's slotted to go. We're going to the finance committee the first Tuesday in May, and that's for a 4% pay for 4% increase. And then we have our interest earned and our development fees. So our total revenues. And then this is the base component. If you remember, the stormwater fee is in 2. There's the base component that does not ever sunset. And then there's the project and infrastructure that does sunset. So we have base component is here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why is the development fee so low for year 5? Is there less development?
Less development. Yeah. So, and also it bumped up for grant funding for the track to project out that we receive funding. So it's another reason why our projection has gone down.
So what would this be, that $6?
That is, I believe it's in, is it in, it's in thousands, so 6,000.
Okay.
So, we don't necessarily always get a ton of development fees. And it depends on violations and fines, which go to the stormwater. We'll see what happens in next year. So I know there was questions last time about the work that we'd spent on Matadera Creek and VA spill. So we did bill them, and at some point in time we will receive this, and then that should replenish our here.
Do we get violation fines often?
Not a lot. We usually try and work with, it's a lot of education and outreach versus fining. And then if it gets egregious, then we do fine. We do C3 billing for our inspectors, and we also do inspections for construction projects. So that is some revenue that comes in. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So we went over this a little bit last meeting.
Yeah.
Right? And I could have sworn that there was a discussion or line item for funds that were brought forward because they hadn't.
Yes. Encumbrances,
Right. And,
Yeah.
And.
forward money.
Is that in here?
Yeah, it's I believe it's in future slides. So,
Oh, in future slides. It's not on this particular.
well, it's bundled in.
It's bundled in.
So,
Okay.
I saw it somewhere.
and that's another reason why also when we propose a budget higher, it could also be
Yeah.
encumbering and moving money that for projects that
Right.
didn't actually happen.
Okay, thank you.
So,
And it's that kind of difference which explains why total revenue is 9 and total expenses
right, it's
are
higher.
12.9.
Yes.
Okay. I find that as a really confusing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
totally agree.
Okay.
That's just the way that,
It's the
budget works.
foibles of budgeting.
Yes.
Oh, I
It's just
see.
the way
It's-
way the cities budget and the way that their budgets are presented. It's
Uh,
not the staff who chooses to present this way. This is the way the city does it.
Oh, I see. Thank you for explaining.
Yeah.
So,
It's like its own language. You just kind of get used to it.
yeah, no, I get that. I'm trying. Okay, thanks for explaining that. I
Yeah,
thought it
you're
might be
welcome.
Something like that. Thank you.
So you can see the money for the base component, the storm drainage maintenance, and then the capital CIP projects. So the GSI, we have not been spending as much right now. We're just trying to get projects to identify so we can actually put some in the ground. So that's been taking some time. And I don't have to tell you guys, you've heard this before, but we've also been very limited on our staffing, unfortunately. So we're still down about 25% of our staff.
So this is a bit of a side, but related. This morning I walked through the Southgate neighborhood, past the sign recruiting volunteers
Yeah.
to take care of GSI. First
Yeah.
time I'd seen that sign.
Yeah, so that's something that Pam, she actually had a community meeting and recruited some volunteers to actually take on ownership of certain of the the Southgate area
That's great.
GSI features. Yeah, it's
It was a nice
fantastic.
looking sign. It made me proud.
Yeah, see? Exactly, and that's where some of your funds are going
Yeah.
towards. So any other questions on this sheet? We can go to the next one unless you have questions.
How do I hit it? How do I, no, I know how to mute it. How do I get?
Okay, I'm gonna scroll down. This is more details of the financial fund. So this is the same slide we just went over, just in slide format. So it's going up 4.2%.
Just one question on
Yeah,
that. And it's mostly just having forgotten. So when we passed the bond measure,
the ballot.
the ballot measure, were we prescriptive on the increase, or is this increase being done discretionally by the finance committee and council?
No, so in the ballot measure, it specifically states that the fee will go up based on CPI, and there's a specific CPI that will go up to, as long as it does not exceed 6%. So this is tying into the CPI.
Okay, so it's ostensibly in implementation of the measure as opposed to, okay.
Yeah, so this
helpful. I
is the
just lost
most-
the context.
Yeah, this is the easiest one when we go to the finance committee, because it's very prescriptive. We go, we say, here we are again, this is it, this is based on what the ballot says, so that's what I'll be going to again in May. So it is what it is. As you can see right now, we don't have any anticipated adjustments at this point in time for 23. We are doing a little bit more work and analysis, and we'll see that in the presentation on maintenance. But we don't have any proposals to increase it this next fiscal year at this point in time. And then we have reappropriations for the GSI and the trash capture device, and that was the Caltrans grant that we received to put in the trash capture by the golf course. So, and then we're working on this East Meadow Circle connection to Doe Creek Pump Station. So you're going to hear more from Vicki from our capital team regarding all the projects, but this just talks about the planned capital projects coming up for 23. So the Loma Verde trunk line improvement project has been completed. There's just a little bit of money left over that, for the loose ends. They're working on the Corporation Way system upgrades and pump station, the West Bayshore Road pump station, and the West Bayshore Road trunk line improvement. And then we have a line item now because we had 380 earmarked for GSI. And so we wanted to put that in the capital project. So we had some money just ready to go when we are shovel ready for GSI projects in the future. So we don't have that one identified yet, but that's the plan. And then this is the trash capture device that I talked about that Caltrans is actually paying for, which is fantastic.
So tell me if this is too much of a tangent, but how do you identify it based on volume of water that you'll be diverting,
So-
or use the location, or?
It's a combination of both. So if you remember, we did our GSI plan that was required by the municipal stormwater permit. So we identified a variety of different locations. And a lot of times we're hoping that we can piggyback on something else, just because 380,000 doesn't go very far. And so, we've expanded out the police building, the new, it's probably not exactly called police building, public safety
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
You know what I was talking about. The public safety building, we actually expanded out the GSI features that was beyond what's required to help treat more of the stormwater. So anytime there's a project that comes up, we're trying to see if there's an opportunity that we can piggyback on and get more treatment, just like the Charleston Arrestadero project, we put in GSI on that. And that was before it was a requirement.
So it's more of an opportunity than capturing the biggest sources.
Well, we are also looking at that as well. So Pam and her team have been working more on a maintenance manual, and then also streamlining the regulations and how all the GSI features get installed. So we're more consistent, and then we can maintain them easier. So that also takes some legwork. So we've been doing a lot of that work in the last couple of years. So
Also, when you take advantage of existing projects, you don't have to do the demo so much.
exactly.
And that's not great, so,
Well, and we can just tack it on to something
Yeah.
that's already happening.
right.
So that's what we're really trying to be.
Other
efficient with our
people's
funds.
money.
Yes, that too. Well, a lot of times it's still the city's money, but yes.
No, but it's different budgets, so,
Yeah.
Be
yeah.
more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the questions, those are the slides for the budget. Did you have any specific questions? And then we should go back to this. If there's any language that we want to tweak. And I don't know if Danny, if you can get access to this, or if you can just maybe type what they're, this, basically this. It's, do you have access to the S drive?
I don't believe, is this in the Public Works S drive? Yeah, I don't have access
Okay.
to that one.
All right, well, it's pretty
Maybe we
short.
won't
Maybe
change
I
it.
do. Now that I'm on there.
Okay,
We worked pretty hard on this. I can't believe that we have to, I mean, we
It's just
spent
a-
a long
You
time
did, so
drafting
it's
this
really just to
language.
review it if you want to
Yeah.
change it, or if you don't, it's
Don't
fine.
encourage us.
Okay.
Exactly, it's a done
Yeah.
deal.
Well, the only question is whether the exigency that prompted us to add this is still with us, and I think it still is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because it's still true that funds available for green stormwater infrastructure and innovative projects are not being utilized fully.
Yeah.
We support efforts by staff, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's still true.
Okay, so good. We don't have to change anything, Danny.
Yay.
Can we have a motion to approve the draft communication to the Finance Committee to be dated April 7 as presented to this meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
One second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Well done.
If not, all in favor? Yes, aye.
Aye.
Great.
It's approved.
Then I can add it to my staff report. Be very
Yeah, right.
efficient.
This lengthy staff report you are now entitled to do.
It's 2 pages long.
Sure.
Very short, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So Vicky, are you on? Did you want to share your own screen?
Yes, I'm here. I came to unmute myself.
Want to share the screen? Is it easier for you to drive?
No, I don't. I can just let you know, I don't think it's very long, the video or the presentation.
Okay.
Hi everyone. I think it's been a while since I presented to you guys last. So today I'm giving an update on our storm drain system replacement and rehab project. So we went to bid ending of last year on this project. And oh yeah, you can stay on this one. And if you don't remember, we're at about 16 different locations in the city. So we started construction in March, and for today's update, on the left, that's a list of streets where we have completed our, on the streets where we've already completed some storm drain pipe replacements. So the picture on the right, those are pictures of the pipes that we've taken out of the ground. So these are corrugated metal pipes or CMP pipes. And if you look at them, they've been completely rusted, and some of them just have holes in it. So these are our existing storm drain systems that we have in some areas throughout the city. So obviously this project aimed to make sure that we preserve the integrity of our storm drain system to make sure that it works. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that these pipes, aren't broken or have holes in them. So we've done a lot of improvements in these neighborhoods. We can go to the next slide.
Are you upstairs?
I am upstairs. But I'm gonna be running back to the field after this meeting.
Yeah, no worries. So next time, if you want, you can actually just come down and present in person.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So part of this project also includes other improvements such as replacing curb ramps, ADA, to make sure that they're ADA compliant. And sometimes we have to do that because our storm drains, they go right underneath our existing sidewalks and curb ramps. So if we rip out any of these infrastructures, we put them back in place and make sure they're up to code. So that includes trench restoration. So these pictures that you see from left to right, the left hand side, that's trench restoration. So we fill up the trench, with asphalt to make sure that, we restore it to what it was and cars can drive over it. The next picture in the middle, that is a new catch basin being poured. So that's a concrete catch basin. So that little hole is our new storm drain pipe. And we have concrete over that new pipe because per our city standards, in areas where the pipes are really shallow, we have to put a concrete cap over it. So when the cars or any heavy vehicles drive on the road, it won't crush the new pipe that we put in. And then the picture on the right shows you the guys laying out a new manhole structure. So that big round circle thing is the collar of the manhole. So they size it down so they know how to build it and how to connect the new storm drain pipes and the existing ones tie into the new manhole junction box. So we did find one old brick structure, and anytime we have CVs in the field, we do want to replace them because they are, outdated, and they become compromised when we do open trenching and we replace, the old pipes. So, as part of this project, we also have to include that when doing any storm rehab. And that's all that I have. Thank you, everyone. Did anyone have any questions? So we are actively in construction. So if anyone was interested on Monday, if you guys wanted to schedule a time or anything, our field crews are currently located at Los Robles Avenue and Campana Drive. So they'll be doing some storm drain work there, where they'll be replacing some storm drain laterals, catch basins, and exposing the manhole. So if you guys were interested, you guys can let me know and I could meet you out there on Monday.
Okay, just a quick question. With inflation, it's gone rampant. Have we readjusted pricing at all?
Yeah, so that's part of the bid process. So those prices are locked in. They do not change.
Okay.
So we awarded the contract back in December of last year, I want to say, and the bids that we received were last year's numbers. In some numbers might have been slightly higher, but we're locked into the numbers that we received in the contract that awarded.
So you think the contractors will live with those numbers?
For now, for this project, yes. So in the process, and one of the things to make sure to capture, just so everybody was aware, currently the project's still on track to be completed in time, and we're still within budget. So typically what we've done in a lot of these CIP projects is also allocate funds for any extras, any things that we may encounter that we weren't anticipated. So we have additional services money that's set aside. In this end, given that our prices are locked in, and we know that there's other areas in the city where we may be able to get to, since we have time in the contract, we may want to add more than those 16 locations where feasible. So we're kind of taking it upon ourselves, working with our operation maintenance department as well, to identify what other locations are there that we can do some restoration or some pipeline replacement or upgrading to a different material if feasible.
Good.
And one last thing, I know I would like, if you're interested in doing a site visit with Vicki on Monday, please let us know. Reach out to her, to myself, to Karen directly. I do not want to send you guys out there on your own. I'm not allowed to send people out there with our hard hats without the vest. So you guys need to let us know, and we can accompany you so you can see the site.
Good.
I would be very interested, and I can go on Monday. Should I just contact you, Karen, or who should I contact? I don't have your.
Let's just see how many people, and then let's get a.
What time of the day would it be?
Vicki?
I think that would be up to you guys to determine, because I don't know my schedule for Monday, depending the CIPP lining people, Michelle.
So we could, I think we can try to facilitate whatever works best. I think we've got, Vicki's going to be in the office, and we've got the contractor in the field. There is another thing that's happening on Monday as well. Part of the project's not only the open trench pipeline replacement, but when some sections, we're also going to line, as you might remember, and when we talked about that project description, line pipes that are not as bad as the ones that were presented here. So we'll be meeting with the sub to do that on Monday as well. So we're hoping that shouldn't take too long, but I'm assuming that's going to occur in the morning. So if you'd like to meet maybe in the early afternoon, that might work. But again, we could try to figure out a schedule that works best for everyone.
If you could say 2, I can be there.
Right.
Okay.
I've driven by a couple projects where they're video and some lines. It'd be interesting to see some of the videos, what kind of shape some of the lines are in.
Are you sure that's stormwater or not utilities?
I'm not sure I'm not sure,
it might be
period. The day before yesterday, they had shut down some street and I realized, I know what I'm doing a little bit, and they definitely were videoing some lines.
Yeah. We have lots of videos if you'd like to help us review them. Otherwise, Vicky ends up spending a lot of time reviewing videos. We have videos we could share with you this afternoon. Have you look at some of the videos what shows the integrity of some of our pipes.
It'd just be interesting for a few, because I mean,
Yeah.
some of these are pretty old, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I want to say some of them were originally pipes. I mean, they've been installing CMP pipes for, I don't know, I want to say in the 50s and the 60s. So over time, these don't disintegrate all of a sudden. They take time, and slowly
Right.
they not only affect the bottom of the pipe where the water's flowing, but also the sides, and potentially could also be the top.
But they kind of collapse. I mean, you're trying to put a new sleeve in, and some of them you can and some of them you can't. So, okay. Sorry, didn't mean to get off.
It would be perfect for me if we could say 2:15. Would that be all right for everyone? 2:15?
2:15, and then the exact location, Vicky? Do you want to send me, or Michelle, could you guys send me a map and the exact location? I'll email it out to everybody.
Yep.
And then also your phone number, so if they're lost, cell phone number.
Yep.
To call would be great too, because I can't be there on Monday.
Yeah. Location's gonna be Los Robles and Campana Drive. But we can put that on an email too.
That'd be great. If you just email it to me, I'll forward it out to all of them.
Thank you.
My silence means I'm not in town.
I figured you were not attending, otherwise you would be asking questions. Okay, great.
One comment.
Yeah.
And it's just an aside comment, but I was looking at all the concrete and reading about low carbon concrete, and I just was curious if in these public works projects, we're starting to look at the carbon footprint of all the concrete that's specified.
So we do have a group looking at low carbon concrete at this point in time for our sustainability climate action plan goals. It has not been incorporated into the specs as of yet for capital projects, but that I anticipate that will be something that will happen in the future.
And part of it too is getting it from the plants. So even if we incorporate it into our specs, is what the provider, what the cement company can provide to us at the quantities that we need, which is usually small, broken down per week.
Great. I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, it's on the other work plan for sustainability.
I understand.
The other hat that I get to wear. Okay. All right. So the next action item for this, and this one may be a little challenging, Hal, is that we need to somehow by today develop the work plans, because council wants to throw all the work plans for all the committees into one fell swoop and have it on a consent item for
Why don't you
council.
tell them that we refuse to do it because it's such a waste of time?
So
Oh.
Sorry.
Michelle,
Former council
thank you,
member, I
Michelle, for
protest about this May 4th.
printing this for me. And what I did is I tried to copy just the headers from the previous work plan, because this is really your work plan. And Danny, I'm hoping is going to assist me on this as well. I might stop sharing so that I can, you guys, oh, Ron, you can't see this.
Could we have 3.5, 4 minutes
To
just
look
to
through it?
read
Yeah.
through it before we start talking?
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Ron, can you see the work
Even though I've
plan?
already talked.
I
It's
did.
boilerplate. There's really nothing in there.
There's nothing
I
in
did.
it.
I did get a email before, a week ago or something like that, that had all this information in it, and I have a tablet sitting next to my computer. And on the tablet, I have all of these charts.
So
How's
if you
that?
look on this, if you look on the screen right now, how this is what we did last year.
So is there any way of just knowing which things are ongoing and which things were specific to last year?
They're pretty much all ongoing.
They're all ongoing, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we approve just to continue it? I would be happy I think the best idea was to approve this document that we just got today,
Okay.
but since we're probably not really gonna do that.
So I misunderstood this document. Can we move our 3 minutes to looking at what you just put up on the screen?
And I apologize, I did not give you guys a printout of this. So.
And let's.
The question is if there are things that have changed.
Is it in the packet?
It's in the packet. It's on
Yeah,
page
it is.
23 in the packet.
Yeah, it is.
So I did send it out ahead of time.
You did.
So nothing dramatically has changed on it. You know, really the mission for the purpose of the Oversight Committee is very clear. That has not changed.
So can you go over that one more time? Specifically, what's our mission?
The Stormwater Management Oversight Committee reviews the
Oh,
projects,
no.
programs, and expenditures that are funded by the stormwater management fees, including proposed stormwater management capital improvement, and confirms their conformity to the 2017 ballot measure.
But isn't it really financial, right?
That's essentially what it states.
Right. Okay, just wanted to reiterate that.
Okay, so it's first on page 24.
20,
Is there,
It's very small on a phone.
Yeah.
can I just ask,
Is
So-
it this one?
yes, I think so.
is it
23.
implied that
But
somehow?
the structure's different, the column structure's
I
different.
know this is the one that the clerk's office asked us to do. This is the one we submitted last year.
Can we
So I was-
submit what we did last year?
I
and
think we
not
probably could, right,
conform?
Danny? No.
Um,
I'm looking at our clerk over
We
here.
had suggested only because the scope of the city council and then previously last year because all the first times were different.
It's just a piece of.
Yeah.
Well,
So I suppose trying to be practical about this, as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the third column and the fourth column, and the question is whether those examples are still valid or need to be updated.
this one,
So our high priority within the year, we said a year ago, was corporation way system upgrades and pump
I'm gonna
station.
take this one.
Oh, sorry.
Would we, does that change? Did we do it? Are we still doing it?
Michelle, are you still there? Did she jump off?
No, I'm still here, sorry. Sorry, it was in the middle of something else. Yes, so we are still in the middle of designing the 2 pump stations. So that's still a high priority, and we have not completed this, even started the construction of it.
Okay, so it's still accurate for that project to say track and monitor construction progress on corporation way system upgrades and pump station.
Correct. And that would apply for SD 2100 and SD 2000, SD 2300.
So moving down that column and asking all of our staff members, not just you, Michelle, in the next box, the first bullet is trash reduction and review. We've had a trash capture project. Does that change what we want to say?
Yes, we're still doing trash reduction review the whole city,
Okay,
I'm not sure.
so
which
that
box are you
doesn't
on?
change.
right here. Trash, priority 4,
Oh,
low
we're
beyond 2
way-
years, down
okay.
here.
Thank
We're
you.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then I'm again going down that third column. We put in review GSI feature at Hopkins near Rinconada Park. Is that still pending or is that history?
No, that was one of the projects got moved forward due to COVID, so it has not been constructed yet. So it'll be constructed, we're hoping this
Okay.
year. Is
Actually,
that right, Pam? Or
no,
Michelle?
actually that has been constructed. I'm not sure if it's completed, but it's either in the midst of completion or almost completed.
So it's within, okay, missed a complete, okay. So
Could we, just to show that we're actually looking at this and doing something, and
That's you.
I worked 33 years in a large company, and to turn in a report that showed that you were doing something was regarded as a step forward.
And it has to be in the right format.
Yeah, well, the format is most
Celebrate.
important.
Completion of.
So in the bottom box, in the third column, which says review GSI feature, can we say accomplished or constructed or installation near complete or?
Or delete
Yeah.
it because it's off the list. If it's a punch, is this a punch list going forward?
This is a work plan for your committee moving forward.
Right, so if it's done, then.
So
you-
we're never gonna look at it again, really.
I don't think that has been.
I'd like to
No, because I
know,
did
it
make.
seems like, it
This
seems
is
like
what
the
format
old
is.
work plan had, more of an overview rather than a list of project by project.
That's
And
true.
if I look at this template, it looks to me, unless you define project or goals rather broadly, that they want like a list, like which of the CIP projects are coming up next, or
Yeah, but
which maintenance.
that's staff's job. Our
Right.
job is to evaluate whether staff is doing a good job. So
Okay.
our,
So that's-
our
yeah.
tasks are not specific projects. Those are
Okay.
not our tasks.
So that's why if you notice, I try to take the headlines from the previous work plan to put it on here, just to at least get us started.
Uh-huh.
That was my attempt. And then I was hoping that,
Bless everybody for trying. I'm sorry. This is really.
and then the second one, the project goal is the same second project goal from the previous work plan, but since they wanted us to change it,
Yeah.
and then we had essentially 3
Yeah.
for our committee. They had plenty more, but I just was using the format that the
Yeah,
clerk's office sent me.
Right.
So, I don't know, we can, at staff level, we can try and work and fill this out, Hal, and if the committee's comfortable, Hal could approve, or we could do it by email, because I don't think we're gonna have enough time to do it today, but
There's
I
no
know.
way. Do
Yeah.
you think you can take this, I mean, just roughly, can you take this document, stuff it into this format?
I
And
can
then,
try. I just apologize, I was out last week and I just,
because
I'm
as
by
a,
myself
as a
right now.
committee, we can't do that. There's
I
no
see.
way we can do that
Okay.
today. And the alternative is, I really mean this, and I, you know, I'm feistier than many, but we could approve it in this format and submit it, and you can say the committee refused to do it in this format. It's not your fault. Blame us.
Well, and I mean, your committee is a little bit different than some of the other committees,
Yeah.
because you're pretty limited on what your
We're
scope and
very
breadth
limited. They
is.
know what we're doing here. and there.
My druthers, my personal feeling is that the staff should update any specifics in the third and fourth and fifth column. Should update any specifics in the third and fourth and fifth column, and you know better than we which specifics can be updated. And assuming that staff updates the specifics, I think we should direct you to present it in this format
Okay.
again, because we're comfortable with
You
that.
hear that, Danny?
Yep, I mean, if that's the committee wants, can't really.
Can we just tell them, you want us to wrestle you to the ground or anything? Would that
Yeah.
help?
It's fine. It's fine. I was just-
Following a brief wrestling to the ground exercise, comma.
See, I told you this committee, right?
It's important to
I-
include that in the action minutes, isn't it?
Okay, so thank you. So this is good because it's recorded and Danny heard it, and we will update this at staff level, and I'll email it out to everybody.
And
with the
as
updates.
directed by the committee, you
Sure.
will present it in the, yes, same
Sounds good.
format.
It
Good.
certainly is
I
not
mean,
what's
like, are we, I
No.
don't know how we address this since our committee, we try to be unanimous, but I guess, do we have, some of us are allowed to make comments in addition or something? I mean, I think that we need to continue to be ready to modify as necessary by the drought, the state water requirements, that we reduce water use, things
No,
like that. And so I think that this is a static plan, but it still needs to be dynamic. That's my opinion.
So Ron, the committee focus is really limited, and it's not water in general.
Okay.
That's the Utilities Advisory Commission's role
Okay.
for water and the drought, and there's a whole nother group within the city that works on drought-related items.
Okay.
So this
So
is really
if we're
storm
go-
drain conveyance.
So if we're
and then-
growing plants to where we send our storm drain, and have to add water to the plants to keep them alive, that's irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant, and we've talked about it as a committee, and it's included, if you've heard any of the presentations from the consultants, there's been a lot of conversation about plantings that will survive in this environment with limited water. It's been a common conversation, to my hearing. Maybe you've missed it.
Yeah, no, it's- Okay, thank you.
Bob,
Just because Ron triggered the opportunity to mess things up. In my broader interest, but is there an intersection with One Water and Storm?
there will be an intersection with One Water and Storm.
Okay, so my request, I don't know if it's a priority, but just to somehow drop the word One Water into this work plan, because then, Ron, I actually think that is a touch
Agreed.
point to your issue, and it is also something that I believe that we should be doing our little part. I'm not saying, but for those that I think, well, the title explains what it is. I don't need to go.
So this stormwater fee, which is why I'm comfortable doing that. The utilities department is looking to do a One Water plan.
Mhm.
The dollar amount that they got from the consultant is much higher than they anticipated. So they've asked the stormwater fund and the wastewater fund to kick in some money, which is why I'm comfortable with including some One Water, because our stormwater fee will be paying for part of the consultant work.
And for the record, you and I did not chat before this meeting.
No, we did not.
So this,
Yeah.
okay, just wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know what One Water is.
So One Water is a comprehensive look at all the different potential water sources that we could utilize within Palo Alto. So it could be our stormwater, our recycled water, groundwater, capturing cisterns, all sorts of different opportunities. Pumped groundwater, because there's a lot of pump and treat up in the Stanford Research Park area. So we have within Public Works and Utilities been working on this through our Northwest County Recycled Water Strategic Plan, which is how do we tie in a little bit more on recycled water. And so now we realize we want to broaden it a little bit more and include all water. So this is a partnership between utilities and Public Works. And so we will be going to council for approval and to ask for a budget to look at this in more detail. And so we're just had the consultant selection, and it hasn't gone to council yet. So I can't talk about budget or dollar amount yet, which is why it's not included in these minutes. But utilities asked if we would fund part of the research. And so that seems to tie in and marry very well with the GSI and the stormwater related projects.
So that ONE or?
One, the number one.
One Water.
So looking at it holistically rather than type. So
Like the rain barrel would be part of that.
rain barrels will be part of that.
Which we've already.
Cisterns will be part of it. Pump and treat would be part of it. Slowing the flow of stormwater in general and replenishing the aquifer would be part of it. That's why it's all holistic and tied together.
That's
So,
good.
What a
yeah,
good idea you had.
Well, it got us, we used our money, but you can find the way, or Hal's sometimes really good at writing these little sentences,
yes.
but I would
He is
put
very
it
good at
as,
that.
I think the place it belongs is if we can reformat to make room for a final box in the first column.
Here,
Yeah.
okay, and add another box on.
I think in the
Sure.
first vertical column, we just need a new box.
Okay,
And then it needs to be stated to be a priority. I don't think it's a 6-month priority. You've indicated that we're going to be kind of within the year, within 2 years working on it.
correct.
And what would be, it would probably be enough to populate the third column and fourth column by saying coordination with One Water program.
Exactly.
Right.
Sounds
That's
good.
That's-
There you go. You got it.
That'd help me.
Sorry,
Uh-oh, Danny.
sorry to interject. I just talked to my city clerk's office and she is strongly urging for this
Why
uniform
don't you talk to
layout
her?
through Teams.
And
Not-
it is because
not
this will.
Why?
Now we
um,
have to wrestle them to the ground.
It's okay,
That has to happen.
So staff will take on taking what's in this work plan and we will modify it and force it to fit in this work plan. And you'll
we ask
direct
Hal
staff to do
to
that and you'll review it. Is that okay, Hal?
Okay, we'll
I
review it.
I would like the action minutes to reflect that the committee thinks that that is a waste of time and finds it unfortunate that staff is being required to do it.
We'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is this the clerk's office that we're worried about?
This will go to, this will go for approval to, they'll individually review all the. work
Well,
plans.
but the interchange that you just had is with the clerk's office.
Correct.
Yes, and then they can communicate.
So I'm, a bad enough guy so that I, as a immediate follow-up to this meeting, can send the clerk a message to say, we had a bigger and more difficult discussion than we should have had relative to the format for the 2023-24 work plan. And we thought it would be more effective if we stayed with the old format. I can express it in a gentle way,
Yes, of
but
course.
I'll make sure that the clerk's office has that input.
Thank you.
And if you can make a last ditch effort to keep it in the old format, you can point to that.
Sure. Well,
Considering the time constraints that we're faced.
What we'll say is we are always concerned about use of staff time, and it
Right.
seemed to us that simply changing the format.
And in our role as fiscal observers,
Keeping-
spending money
keeping-
on this or on
Yeah.
a GSI project,
Yes,
it's like
exactly.
there's no choice.
So I'll send that message. I can do
There's
that.
25% low on staff, right?
So the action minutes should note that the chair will communicate with the city clerk on the format issue.
thank you. You got that, Danny?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, next.
Yes, let's move on. Oh my
We've
God, thank you
certainly
for
done
bringing
that.
back.
So now we are at the discussion of GSI operations and maintenance costs.
So Pam or Jerry, did one of you want to drive?
Yeah, I'll be driving, Karen, if that's okay.
Sure. So you. can
Let's
share
see
your-
if I can share my screen from here. Looks like that's going to work.
Pam, do you want to just do a brief introduction of Jerry? I know he's been here before, but do you mind?
Yes, everyone knows Jerry. He's been to the last couple of meetings. We are toward the end of working with the consultant SCI with our primary contact, Jerry Bradshaw. We're toward the end of working on our analysis of ways to leverage the stormwater fee to look for funding opportunities to fund the design, construction, maintenance of green stormwater infrastructure. As you know, we have limited funding through the fee and have pretty stringent requirements, particularly through a new stormwater permit that will be released soon to construct much more green infrastructure than we currently have. And we will have to appropriately maintain that. As you know, once we construct it, it becomes a city asset and we're responsible to maintain it for its lifetime. So this is a follow-up to the last discussion that we had. At the last meeting, we discussed potential ways that we could, one is get a better understanding of costs, of life cycle costs. And when I say life cycle, that means construction, maintenance, establishment of those of plants and bioretention areas, and then also replacement of those as needed. And so we wanted to better clarify the costs of life cycle of green infrastructure. We were able to focus on bioretention for today's presentation. And so that's what today's presentation focuses on. This will allow us to better clarify how to set up a future contract to maintain green infrastructure separately from the existing contract for all landscaping within the city. So in order to really set up a contract and identify the type of maintenance that needs to be done, which we're identifying through a separate project for the maintenance and monitoring manual that was mentioned by Karen earlier, we really need to know how much it's going to cost us. So thank you to Jerry. We've been working together to really dig into this, and we're still very much at kind of a rough estimate, but we're at a much less rougher estimate than we were before. So that's what Jerry's going to present on, and then I will just take the last slide to close things out and talk about next steps.
Okay, thanks, Pam. So this is the final step. We've brought you along through various steps of what we were looking at in green stormwater infrastructure funding. And this was the last gap that we weren't able to share with you at the last meeting 2 months ago. So this is the cost of green stormwater infrastructure, and there's a couple of components: capital costs to build these new facilities, and then operating and maintenance costs, or O&M. And then also we need to put that in the context of meeting the stormwater permit requirements. And for that, we actually have a brand new permit just around the corner. In fact, I think it's going to be released next week. We've seen draft forms. It's been public. Comment period is ending. There'll be hearings in the next couple of weeks, and then they'll actually issue it effective July 1st. So we think we know what's in it, although it could change. So we've built that into some of the costs that we'll show you in just a few moments. I just want to set up a hypothetical example of green stormwater infrastructure. So this is a parcel downtown. According to Google Maps, it's where you have your farmer's market. It's a rectangular site, and it's about 17,000 square feet, or in acres, it's 0.39 acres. So what I'm going to do is define some terms that we're going to be talking about, because this green stormwater infrastructure is referred to two different ways. So if we wanted to build some green infrastructure and treat the runoff from this site, we would do like down that little green areas, build some bioretention that would gather all the runoff from the site, filter it, and send it on its way. The treatment area for this would be about 678 square feet. That's 4% of the total area. That 4% is a standard ratio. That's a 25-to-1 ratio between the size of the impervious area and the size of the treatment to treat that. So it's very efficient, really, when you think about it. And that's used widely around Northern California. It might be different in different parts of the state or different parts of the country, but that's the ratio we use here for typical biofiltration infrastructure. So in this example, we would have one term, which would be the bioretention area, the green area, 678 square feet. And that's usually mentioned in square feet because those are smaller chunks. And then the other one is acres treated. And in this case, that would be the whole site of 0.39 acres treated. So those are the two terms we're going to be using as we go through the next couple of slides here. You're probably sick of seeing this diagram. I'm going to use it hopefully for the last time for you. What this was a GSI capital cost study that was done in Onondaga County, New York, which is in the Syracuse area in upstate New York. And they had like 127 projects that they put together and formulated this graph. When you look at that solid dark blue line that runs near the bottom horizontally, that's road construction, and that's typically where you build green infrastructure in conjunction with other construction. So it's a co-benefited project. Green infrastructure is one element, and that's usually the cheapest way to build infrastructure because the bigger project is handling a lot of the mobilization and other factors that we've talked about in the past. So that lower red star represents a point on that curve of about $160,000 per acre treated. So there's the acre treated unit that I talked about earlier. Other projects that aren't co-benefited oftentimes are more costly. And we've picked the upper red star, it landed about $335,000 per acre treated. And if you see, other than that bright blue line and the yellow one way up top, all the rest of them kind of converge around that one point where the red star is in the under 1 acre size. One other thing I want to point out is the horizontal axis here shows how many acres you're building for a project. So most of those lines slope down. In other words, if you're building more acres to treat, they're cheaper per acre. So that's, but in Palo Alto, you're probably going to be building projects that treat less than 1 acre at a time. So we're coming over to the left side and picking off some points that would represent costs in Syracuse, New York. So that's an interesting challenge, is that this was done in 2014 up in the northeast part of the country. So I had to convert those costs to 2021 Bay Area costs. And that ended up being a 17% adjustment. And if you're really curious, I could explain how I did that, but there's about 3 or 4 steps. So we took those costs that you see up above and adjusted them upward by 17%. We also took 2 other Bay Area examples for construction costs. If you recall, we talked a little bit about the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission has an in lieu fee program. And in those calculations, they estimate what it costs to build co-benefited green infrastructure projects. So we took that number and tried to factor it in, see if it came out close to these New York numbers. And we also took the El Cerrito Rain Gardens project that I was part of back in 2010 in El Cerrito and used that data. So we have a couple other points, and they all pointed to a similar result. So that was good that they all kind of pointed in the same direction, and we feel somewhat comfortable. So here's a summary of what those were. For capital costs, we have co-benefit projects of $190,000 per acre treated. That's if you're building green infrastructure with other work, or boils down to $107 per square foot of bioretention. For standalone projects, that almost doubles. We ended up at $360,000 per acre treated and a little over $200 per square foot of the bioretention. We did a similar analysis for operations and maintenance. We took sources from about 3 different points, well, 2 different. Your maintenance crews in the Parks Department have put together estimates of how much it was costing them to maintain the biofiltration that you already have on site. So we use that as one basis. And then we talked to the SFPUC again, separate from their in lieu fee program, but Brad on Pam's staff actually talked to the people who manage and maintain the green infrastructure in San Francisco and got hourly estimates. And then we applied those hours against the hourly cost in Palo Alto and came up with these numbers.
Are those costs per year or day, or what are they?
Pardon me, these are annual costs.
Okay.
For operations and maintenance. So to treat an acre and then to take care of that treatment area, it's a little over $6,000 per year for an acre. And which boils down to $3.60 per square foot of bioretention maintenance. So let's apply those to that hypothetical I showed you earlier, that downtown parking lot. That little green patch in the corner would cost about $2,400 per year to maintain, according to this number. So I stepped back and said, what does that amount to? That's about $200 a month. That's about an hour every 2 weeks to come do regular maintenance. And that leaves a little bit extra so that twice a year you can do some major work during leaf season or doing cutback of plants, checking irrigation facilities from time to time, and then leaves a little bit more yet to do some rehabilitation every 5 years or 3 years or something. So we've added some in for that. So it sort of checks out. I think we can ground truth it, and it's not far off. So I think for a high level planning estimate, which is my way of saying a rough estimate that Pam used, I think we're in the ballpark for the operations and maintenance. So let's apply this to what requirements you have and what you actually have on the ground. The top box has the capital. The first number there under acres treated is 4. And what that comes from is the new permit that we anticipate coming out in the next month of a requirement over and above all the regulated projects that might happen in Palo Alto. The city is going to be required to treat 4 acres of impervious surface over the next 5-year permit cycle. So we said that is a goal over and above regulated projects, which incidentally should be self-funded. So for this fund that you people watch, this is an additional 4 acres that need to be treated to be spent out of your Green Infrastructure Projects Fund. So 4 acres at the unit cost of $275,000. Now, where I got that from was the $190,000 and the $360,000. One's for co-benefit projects, one for standalone projects. We're not sure what your projects will be. We'll assume some will be co-benefited, some will be standalone. So we just took the average of those two, took a number in the middle for planning level, and came up with $275,000 per acre treated. So times 4 is $1.1 million is what it will cost over the next 5 years to meet that permit requirement of additional green infrastructure. And then if you boil it down per year, that's $220,000 per year over the next 5 years. Now, as you saw earlier, you have capital funding of about $400,000 to $500,000 per year. I think it's about $400,000 on an ongoing basis now. So this $220,000 per year actually fits within that number and allows you to do other projects, to put it towards some other things that don't necessarily go towards this 4 acres treated goal. So that's actually fairly good news using these high-level planning estimates. On the maintenance side, we're going to go with that $3.60 per square foot of bioretention. So that first column is a total of all the bioretention you have already. The top line, the 32,000, is what we estimate you have on the ground now for all the projects you've done over the last 10 or 12 years. And at $3.60 a square foot, it looks like you would need to be spending about $116,000 per year to maintain that. So that, again, it's a planning level estimate of what you already have in the ground. We don't really know exactly what you're spending because those costs are borne by and large for bioretention by the Parks Department, some of it through the contract, maintenance contract, and some of it by staff. So those have been really hard to track. So coming at it around through these external sources is probably as good a way as any right now. Although keep in mind, some of that's based on what your maintenance supervisor in parks actually gave us for costs. So some of it is based on reality. And if we look ahead for another 4 acres treated, or 6,970 square feet of bioretention is what it would take to treat the 4 acres. That would be another 25,000 that would gradually build up over the next 5 years. So in 5 years, our estimate is you'll be around 141,000 in today's dollars for annual maintenance expenses. Now, keep in mind, these are high-level planning estimates, plus or minus 20–25%. So every project on the capital side is going to have its own cost estimate, and those costs will become more real once you get into design, planning and design. And for maintenance, looks like you may have some structural changes in how you maintain it. I'll let Pam talk about that in a minute, about maybe bringing a separate contract on board for green infrastructure. And that'll help you better define what you have and what those costs are. But this is our best guess with the scattered information we have out there and how variable it is. We're actually fairly pleased that the different sources kind of pointed in the same direction. So I think you don't necessarily have a dedicated line item in your fund for this O&M. We talked about that 2 months ago at the meeting. I think staff's taking a opportunity to look at creative ways of funding this, possibly from this fund, other different ways. So that review is ongoing internally, and we can let Pam and Karen address that if they have anything to add. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Pam to walk through the next steps here.
Terry, thank you. That's we've all been looking for those numbers. That's great.
Before I start, did anyone have questions on what Jerry reviewed?
Seems like they are.
I mean, just one quick one. You did say economies of scale, and when you showed those curves, and I suppose that we could say the same thing as we build more of these, the unit costs will go down a little bit.
Yeah, I think the whole industry is starting to get more efficient at how you design it and how you build it, and hopefully how you maintain it and keep it healthy forward. When I did my projects in El Cerrito in 2009 and 2010, we were some of the first ones in the Bay Area to do anything like that, and they were pretty expensive. So we kind of factored that into using that as a basis. But hopefully that we will get a little more efficient. Yes.
Right. Well, you're filtering, so it's just like a car filter. You have to do something to the filter every so often because it's picking up contaminants. So you're still
Right.
using filtration, and filtration, maintenance of filtration gets economies of scale big time. So,
Right.
anyway.
Right.
Just to add to that, the one issue that we are finding and will find is that because bioretention is distributed throughout the city, that the transportation costs for maintenance staff between sites will increase the costs.
Okay.
So the more that we can do, the more that we can construct larger treatment areas where we don't have to drive around the city as much to maintain them, the better it will be. We have not succeeded in that, but I hope that we can start to engage the rest of the city in discussing some different options for building large treatment areas instead of.
It might be nice to add that to goals, long-term goals are to do these things to make it more cost effective.
Sure.
Or we can add that into the work plan. I think he wants that in the work plan, Cam.
Oh, okay. We
Thank you.
can also mention it in this report.
Good, thank you.
Sure. So I just wanted to finish up, and first, apologies for not having my camera on. I'm having some tree work done at my house, so I'm actually down the street sitting in my car. So sorry about that. It's very loud at my house today.
Right.
So just to close out that presentation, next steps are that we're going to be finalizing the report, and then we'll be emailing it out to everyone for a review before we finalize it completely. We're going to continue to dig into these costs. One such challenge has been that when construction occurs, the costs that are reported by the contractor tends to be in very broad terms. So we need to work as city staff to better collect those items and ask them to allocate specific costs for green infrastructure separately from other construction costs so that we can better understand those. The other item is that, as Jerry alluded to, a lot of the parks maintenance is done by our landscape contractor. The way that our contract is set up, the contractor charges per location. So there is one set umbrella cost per Mitchell Park, for example. So we don't know how to identify the cost for what they do in the entire park versus how long they maintain the bioretention. So that has been one challenge. So we're still trying to get to the bottom of the exact cost. The other item is that we have learned a lot over time in terms of we meaning the green infrastructure practitioner world, and we have realized that there's much more that we need to do to maintain bioretention areas than what has been done historically nationwide. So through writing up our maintenance manual, we're also identifying how we can better maintain these areas. And once we have a very clear scope of that, then we can better identify how much the contract should be when we set that up. And so what we're planning to do is pull out the bioretention maintenance out of that landscape contract. That landscape contract will expire at the end of fiscal year.
Pam, you just went on mute. It expires the next fiscal year, correct?
I'm sorry,
Pam?
Could you say that again?
You just went on mute when the next landscape contract expires, and I believe it's the next fiscal year.
Yes, so it would be at the end of June 2023.
So
maybe we are.
That way we could probably get somebody that's more, for this activity than more of a general activity. I think that's a good idea.
Yes, exactly, Ron. So we are working on that scope of work right now and trying to determine what type of maintenance they should be conducting, identifying the kind of maintenance that needs to be done at the beginning to help the plants establish, for example, versus what needs to be done to the older bioretention areas, and a lot of different details. And we can share that scope with you when that happens. When we go to council with that scope, then we will also present this final report, this final funding report to council to show that we've done our homework.
Good job.
Thank you. So that's where we're at. Does anyone have any questions?
I think the main thing for this committee, since you are the fiscal overseers, at some point in time, we will probably need to reshuffle some of the budget around to make sure that we are maintaining our GSI features. And it might be one that will be iterative and may grow over time because we have a certain amount of GSI features in the ground now. And then we also have a regulatory requirement in the future that we will need to do. So this will be something that the nice thing is that Jerry and Pam have worked on this. We have a great foundational background of it and why we need this. And then I think we probably can shuffle money around within the stormwater fee to make sure we're maintaining, because that is a requirement. So you guys have any questions on that?
I have a question. Can we approach schools with the big parking lots?
Yeah, we can. Yes, Pam, they're under a different permit. If we treated school parking lots, would that benefit us?
Yes, it could. Well, we would have to construct it in a way that it would also treat some of our street right of way. So it would have to be something that would be located in the street, but also treats the school runoff.
But it would be a great partnership.
Yes,
it's a little more coordination and that. But yeah, that's a great idea.
I know a few years ago, Ron, if it's done with redoing their parking lot, I totally lost track. And that would have been a nice cooperative opportunity, but I know the schools are a whole different thing.
Well,
and part of the question.
And schools were originally exempt for some of the C3 features, but now they're no longer exempt. So if they were redoing their parking lot now, they would actually have to be, they'd be deemed a regulated project. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pam or Jerry, but I believe I'm saying correct, that now they would actually have to treat that stormwater.
So that could be a good opportunity because those are huge.
Yeah.
And there are
other thing that we've talked about is, temperature is also a quality of water, and it's a big deal. And places that are starting to get heated, temperatures going up, like LA is converting totally to white concrete, quite asphalt. So it's another thing that we can coordinate with is how we do things that may be making stormwater less impacted. Anyway, that's it.
I have a question, going back to the schools. So do we have a contact with the school people?
Yes, there's actually a whole school committee partnership with the city and the schools. There's a committee that I used to actually attend decades ago. I just haven't had the time to go, but we do.
How in reality, okay.
They don't work well together.
Oh, I thought just wanted.
Well, no, we've had it.
Is there an effective?
Well, I don't know. We've been in for our zero waste goals and working with the cities in that way and sustainability related goals. And we've actually worked very well with them. So I think we just need to bring this up with the schools committee and see who's the right person to work with Maryland.
I know I've worked with them for years with very mixed results.
It just depends on who you get and if they have a project that we could.
I was gonna say, it
tap
depends
onto.
if it's something they want to do, it's easy.
Exactly.
If it's something that they don't particularly care about.
Well, for conservative farming, anyway, it seems like an opportunity that's very hard to take advantage of.
So timing of this, Pam and Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but because the current landscape contract ends June of next year, we'll be pulling it together. Procurement takes 6 to 9 months right now here. So probably sometime this year, next year will be coming. And it will actually tie in very well with our budget review. And then also being very clear that we're pulling out some money and we'll come up with a suggestion at staff level. And then obviously we'll need you guys to approve or come up with something else.
Cool.
Okay.
Excited, yes.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Pam.
You're very
Any other
welcome. Thank you.
comments?
I just want to say one thing in response to Marilyn's comment about schools. I did recently find out that there's 2 schools that are planning some improvements, and I was connected to the project manager. So we are going to hopefully at least have some discussions about how we can work together. They did have a sustainability manager, and unfortunately when COVID started, they let that person go and they haven't replaced that position. So I did lose that contact, but at least I'm in contact with the project manager of those 2 improvement projects.
Are you in contact with the Sustainable Schools Committee?
No, I have not. Well, not recently. I did present there pre-COVID, and so they are aware of our efforts. We made some initial contacts. I mean, to be honest, after that sustainability position was cut and COVID started, you know, things did fall apart on the coordination front with the schools. So we'll be trying to start that up again.
Because I haven't been to a meeting for years, but Rachel Gibson, I think is her name. I still get her emails, and they're a pretty effective group just for awareness and paving the way for someone to talk to. I know it takes time.
Is that
Yes.
is that a staff person?
No, these are volunteers, but they meet with
Oh,
staff.
okay.
And it's a very friendly group, so it's a good way to make inroads with people who might not always be easy to work with.
I think I get those emails as well, but will you just forward me one if you don't mind, Marilyn,
Sure.
or Rachel's contact info so we can circle back?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I said I haven't been to a meeting for a couple of
Yeah.
years, but I think it's a good.
That'd be great. All right. Yes,
Thank you.
Bob.
I wanted to, maybe it's go back, but I was really impressed with this, the focus on GSI maintenance as something important. And so in our work plan, is it possible that we could raise the price? There's an item called review GSI maintenance and monitoring manual. But I was hoping that as you work on it, you could spin that a little bit to bring from way out in the future to something that it sounds like we're thinking about this year.
Yes, and I will do that in the work plan.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's, the intent was that we would work together and develop the work plan, but I think that we will come up with a solution and we will email it to you. And make
No,
sure to
I'm
incorporate
more
that too.
just was listening to this discussion,
Yeah.
reflecting on what we did here and
Yeah.
wanting to
Perfect.
adjust. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe we've reached the point on our agenda where we're moving to committee member comments and announcements. And we have one, right, Bob? You and I've talked a little bit about it. You want to take the floor and
Did you want me to share
Yeah, at one level, I can use words. I think the
it? Okay.
first thing on my mind, again, was congratulating our chairman on the Tall Tree Award. It's
thank you.
we are an amazing city with a lot of creative people, and to stand, you know, at the pillar of this, with all the different, with the insights you bring to this committee is just really.
It is nice that they remembered that we have this committee. That's a good thing.
No, I was delighted. So so turning the page though, I am making a proposal, not to this committee for necessarily their endorsement, but that it affects the committee. And the proposal that I'm working to present to City Council is to convert the UAC and the Stormwater Management Committee into a Energy Commission and a Water Commission. My own observation working on the SCAP and the challenges on climate is that the UAC has an enormous burden on energy. And the other observation I've met when I've gone to the UAC and spoken to them on water and talked to Lisa, the chairperson, is they have no water skills. There's not a single water person on there. I observed when I come forward with a water issue to the UAC, and when they spoke about One Water, we talked about One Water, there was not a comment from the UAC, there was not discussion. And my concern is that at the commission structure that climate and energy is incredibly important, but water is also important. And so I was working to present a program where this committee would evolve to being a water commission, which the change would mean that the discussion of One Water would be within this committee's purview. So it would include all elements of water from not only storm, but wastewater, reclaimed water, groundwater, water supply, blah, blah, you know, the whole network. Then reciprocally, the UAC would be energy and would have more capacity to deal with the climate challenges that they have, as you read about in the paper. So what my approach is I, in fewer words than I've just said, sort of laid out this concept, and it's sort of framed that right now we have an organizational commission design, the UAC zippers to utilities, SMOC zippers to public works, but that we should consider being a resource-based organization dealing with the focus being the resources, energy or water. So I am working on a brief, and I'm sort of floating it around, trying to get feedback. Hal had offered one comment about whether we even had the discretion to change. You know, we're created out of a ballot measure, but if, and the city attorney would obviously need to judge that, but it appears the council resolution is general enough that they, you know, if they wanted to do it, they could do it. So I guess I wanted to share it because I think it's an intriguing idea, and I was looking for any, I don't know if I can get comment on it. I don't know if we have a 3-minute rule, but I wanted to lift that idea.
Well, can I go, you guys, why don't you guys ask questions, and then I would like to give, and I wanted to talk to Bob before this meeting because I did a little due diligence, but go ahead and ask questions, and then I'll wanted to, what I dug into in terms of what we can do as a committee, and then also his ideas.
All I wanted to say was having energy and water commission seems like a fine idea. I don't think the water commission naturally flows from this committee. We talk about water, but we don't talk about lots of parts of water. We're just this little corner of water. So,
No, exactly.
So I applaud your efforts to sort of pursue that. But this committee, I mean, I agree with Hal. We were formed by a ballot measure. This commission was promised. This is a, you know, we're supposed to have a very narrow focus, and that, and as I've said before, compared to the library bond committee on which I sat for many years, this, I mean, we're really wide ranging staff like this, have very broad conversations, which we were not allowed to have for the library bond issue. And so, I mean, that's been great for us. It's more fun. We have a lot more fun. But, so the idea seems great. I don't think that this committee is the natural, what do I want? The natural egg from which the water commission would burst. That's all I wanted to say.
Sure. No, so in your vision, you keep this committee and you have a water commission.
Or you figure out how the water commission can serve this function and still do it in an unbiased
Okay.
way, but.
I just
but
wanted
We
to-
it's a-
probably all have different opinions here, and I think we're getting off the track. If we want to format the entire city, that would be interesting, but I think I'm going to excuse myself. Thank you. Bye.
All right.
I just want to make a comment, having been on the utilities commission for 6 or 7 years. The one time we got a water expert, he had to be recused because of a perceived conflict of interest, which nebulous, but you're right, there's very little water expertise, and the budgets are separate. The laws, I can't remember now, but I remember we tripped over ourselves once trying to discuss water budgets, and then it turns out they can't be mixed with the others, and
Well, they can't be mixed, but the utilities does oversee all of the utilities
but
budget.
the focus was very much on non-water, and when water came up, it was almost like an unknown. I was interested in water, because I have a little bit of background in that, but it was I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. Because in all those years, there's only one expert, and he had to recuse himself whenever we discussed water, so that was unfortunate.
So maybe Bob, I can talk to you offline.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for, because it interacted with the committee, I wanted to just inform you, and who knows if it'll even get standing, but I'm trying to collect input and,
It's another opportunity for another annual work plan.
No, I absolutely, I love water. I think water is so exciting to work on, and that's why I like being on this committee. And we're talking about the one water. It's like you're kind of tugging at the string, but you don't see the whole interaction, and it's a beautiful system that I really think Palo Alto could. And I think so. That's all. And so I can, you can push or do whatever you can do. I didn't know Brown Act. That was why I sent it to you. I didn't want to create any Brown Act issues, but I didn't send it to the whole committee because I don't want to get
Even if
talk to the
we,
city attorney.
even if this committee is sort of static and it has its purview, and that's that, what you're talking about in terms of making improvements to a different committee or commission, that in and of itself is exciting and interesting to me. So,
No, it thinks.
yeah.
Done.
Great.
So here's good news.
Yay.
Our hardworking mayor and vice mayor have decided that they want to hear from all of the committee chairs and have decreed that there will be a meeting on April 12th at which all of the committee chairs will roll out and talk about what their committees are doing. And thanks to today's meeting, I have 2 things I can raise.
Yay.
I can say, there's nothing more precious than staff time and nothing more appreciated than staff work. And we have an input for you about the clerk wanting everything redone in all of these work plans redone in a new. So I now have a pulpit from which to make that observation. And I can say that our committee talked about it and felt strongly. Okay. But I also have a conversational opening to talk about this. What I plan saying is that we took no action. We heard from you, and then I'll try to do an adequate job of
Better than me.
quoting you. I'll try to do a good faith, adequate, representative job of quoting you, and saying Bon has this really interesting idea, and we, as a committee, don't have a position on it because doing anything but what our charter is a question that's beyond our charter. We have our charter, and the question of whether our charter should be different or moved to somebody else is not for us to talk about. On the other hand, this is an idea worth pursuing. Okay, so if I may, I will try to relay it to that meeting on April the 12th. And
You can say that on a regular basis, on matters that are relevant to our charge, we have conversations that touch with other water-related issues. You can talk about one water if you want.
Well,
but
and
it isn't like we never talk about these things. We do talk about them. We just don't talk about this proposal or.
just amongst chickens, it also gives me a good chance to say going back to Joe and now with Karen and with everybody else on the staff, we have been extremely well served by a hardworking staff that lets us explore into these adjoining areas. And on the one hand, we chew on our fingernails and worry about not asking the staff to do too much because they're overtaxed. On the other hand, we can report that over the years, the staff support of allowing us to ask these questions has been pretty good.
Think so.
So we'll pick this up on the phone.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have other things under this topic, which is committee member comments and announcements?
Can I move to adjourn?
We still have to set a tentative agenda for future meetings.
Sorry.
I note with satisfaction and point with pride that we have, that's because I'm on the committee. If I were against the committee, I would be viewing with alarm. You need to know whether your role in politics is to point with pride or to view with alarm.
That's
And
right. Which side are you on?
I'm on the point with pride side. So I point with pride and great satisfaction that we have a field trip on
The 12th.
Monday at 2:15. So that should be noted in this part of the tentative agenda items and review action items meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled to be when, Karen?
I believe it's June 7th. Hold on, let me double check. The first Thursday in June.
Yeah,
It's not the 7th, that's
Then
a
it's the
Tuesday.
second. I think it's the second. I think
Is
the
this-
third.
I,
Oh, it's not on my calendar.
Karen, I love this room. I like
This is where
so
we will
much
be
better.
holding it.
I have to report that I will be in Ashland, Oregon and can't get out of being in Ashland, Oregon on that date. So, and this is a time of the day when I probably will be tied up seeing a Shakespeare play and not able to join.
So we
So I've got a
could,
vacation plan, but
Can we join you by Zoom and watch the
Right.
play?
And we could change the date.
Yeah.
we could always change the dates. I just need to,
Could we do it on
Courtney.
June the 9th?
so I'm out of town that week.
Okay, I can't do it. That's the problem, changing dates.
So we got 2 months to work with, so.
We could, I could do a doodle poll, or we could do it now since we have most
could you do a
everybody here.
doodle poll?
That's a
Sure.
good
That would
idea.
be a big
Okay,
help to me
Okay.
because I'm traveling with other people who've set that as the date for Ashland.
yeah, no problem. We'll do a doodle poll and we'll change it and we'll need to note that on the website, so. we can-
Excuse me, what did you just say we're doing? A what kind of poll?
Oh, it's
A
called
doodle
doodle.
poll.
A doodle poll?
It just
Yeah.
says
This
a
is your
variety of
chance.
dates and times, and you can click yes if you're available or not.
Oh, you literally set up.
Yeah, everybody responds, and so
Oh,
you
that's
get this
hilarious.
matrix, and it becomes pretty clear when everybody or most everybody can do it.
That's a calendar you get to check off. on.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's a lot easier for staff than trying to call all
I
of
get
you.
it. So that's a great idea.
They
I'm
send you a
supportive of it,
link and you
but I have a
follow the link.
procedural question. So what happens if our chair is unavailable?
We have a vice chair, I
That's
think.
what I
Who
thought.
is our vice chair?
Dina.
Yeah.
Dina is our vice chair.
So, okay, so in that case, Dina would be the acting
Yeah,
chair.
if we couldn't set another date, Dina would be the chair.
Okay, just curious.
It would be a really fast meeting.
Yes. Call to order, move to adjourn.
And we'll also come up with some tentative topics as well,
Good.
so.
So you were prepared to move to adjourn?
I was, and I still am. I moved to adjourn.
Is there a second?
A second.
Without objection, we're out of here at 2:44.
All right.
Amazing.
Well done.
Thank Thank you, staff that are on the phone.
Thank you, staff.
Thank
that are
you.
on the phone.
Yeah.